Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this live stream episode of Serving Veterans Who Served Us. Let me add my co-host Jason Hinsley into today's conversation.
Hey,
What's
good
up?
Morning. Good morning.
What's up with you, Jason?
Nothing. While the intro music was playing, I was having some technical difficulties last second, and I just fixed it just as you got me on.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah. Not fun. But I was a little scared I wasn't going to be on the screen.
Well, I hear you.
Yep.
So, hey, let's start off. Let's just jump right into it. We're now wrapping up the month of March. We've got at least 1 month opening up the season of real estate. What's going on? What do you see happening right now?
Well, I would say Chicago always is pretty stable for the most part. We're shifting a little bit. So we're seeing houses sometimes taking a little longer to sell, but buyers are starting to have a little bit of leverage. But unfortunately, that a little bit of leverage they have is not affecting prices in most areas. Prices are kind of still up.
Yeah.
And again, I say this all with the caveat that Chicago is huge. Chicagoland is even bigger. So this is very neighborhood to neighborhood, suburb to suburb. But like overall, prices are up, 5 to 7%, which is kind of normal. Prices are not coming down, and that's from last year. So
yeah.
So it's not a hot market. It's not a cold market. It's more of a smart market, if you will. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, and that's how my agents are looking at it. That's what they're seeing on the ground. Just a lot of careful negotiations between buyers and sellers.
Okay.
To kind of get both sides to agree to things. Sellers are still priced high in the eyes of the buyers, and the buyers are still seeing not enough inventory.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of an equilibrium right now from place to place. That can be a little different, but as a general overarching.
Okay. Do you feel that the negotiation is taking longer than it has been compared to a year ago, 2 years ago, or still about the same?
Let's say just anecdotally in my office, with our 20 agents, that's a good question. I think I haven't really thought about that, but I like to track the data, but I'm going to have to look at it after this, but it does seem anecdotally like it is taking longer.
Yeah.
Because we are negotiating a lot more points. I think buyers are asking for a lot more things. And in some cases, they're asking for stuff that's kind of ridiculous.
Ridiculous, unreasonable.
We just had a deal where the buyer asked for all the interior doorknobs to be changed.
What? Why?
They didn't like them. They weren't faulty, nothing. They just didn't like them. And they didn't include the attorney they didn't include the realtor when they asked the attorney to send that over. So it actually went to the other side as a request.
Got it.
Ridiculous. So we had to correct that as soon as we found out about it.
So did the seller just say, sorry, but no?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, we said that's ridiculous. Why'd you ask for that? So, but things like that, we've seen, a lot of requests for like chimney repairs, which, can be pretty expensive. That's like, could be up to, mid teens, 15, 16K if the chimney's a mess. But sellers are able to push back against that and give like just a fraction of that cost rather than the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe split in the middle, meet them halfway, whatever this.
Well, not even halfway, maybe a quarter of that.
Or maybe a quarter. There you go.
Because again, inventory is still tight. So if you get anything as a buyer, you're kind of look around at what else is out there. There's not a lot of inventory. Inventory is tight. So if you're in negotiations, you want it to go through. So buyers might ask for a lot, but they're not getting as much as they think they're going to get.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I know inventory is still tight, especially in the first time home buyer market, and also that first tier of what I call the trade up market. You agree?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's just a general shortage in that stock to begin with, because all of the 2000s, from 2000 to 2010, we built less homes in this country in any point in time since World War II.
Very true.
They're just those properties don't exist. The margins are too lean for the builders to build those homes.
Yeah.
They want to build the mega houses where they're going to make more profit. So starter homes are harder to find, and then boomers are living longer and they're staying put in those homes. They might live in one room in those homes, but they're staying in those homes much, much longer. So
yeah, I hear you.
Starter homes are tough right now.
Yeah. Especially ranch homes are a diamond in the rough. They're hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a family, they have somebody who has a physical handicap and they need to get a ranch.
Right.
And they've been looking for a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. It's tough for ranches.
Yeah. Did you know this? It's more expensive to build a ranch home than a 2-story home.
I believe it. I believe it.
You need a larger plot of land unless you're squeezing onto an urban lot, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And also the cost of pouring the foundation, especially if you're going to do a basement, that's where the initial big cost is. That's why you see people building up more than building out.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
Yeah, that's what a builder dropped in front of me. So I thought about it. I said, okay, I'll buy that.
Yeah, I've had some people who want to do new construction, and I've been pointing them towards unincorporated areas.
Yeah,
because then you can get a bigger lot. You have looser regulations, looser local controls on that kind of stuff. So it's more obtainable.
True.
Incorporated area.
Yeah, unincorporated, or you got to go farther out. But the challenge there is, if you've got to deal with a commute, maybe that's not the solution that you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, even unincorporated areas are really interesting because there are unincorporated areas that are kind of in Chicago, but people just don't know about them, and they're not really labeled, because they're unincorporated.
Right.
There's a spot over by Midway, Central Stickney. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of Stickney.
Yeah. No, Central.
Okay. No.
So Stickney is on the other side of the highway.
Okay.
From north of the highway from Central Stickney. Central Stickney is unincorporated.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, It's a weird little spot over there by Garfield Ridge. And then there's a bunch of little spots. Nottingham Park is unincorporated, and that's right by SeaGeek Stadium.
Yeah.
So you just gotta get a realtor that knows where these places are.
Yeah, I know out in the suburbs when the telltale sign as to when a property is in an unincorporated area, they have that funny house number. The digits and then the direction and then the digits again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or it'll be like 42, 33 and a half.
Yeah, that's the telltale sign. Mm-hmm. All right, let's now shift the conversation to In your opinion, Jason, what are the top 3 things that sellers want right now? I mean, apart from, let me take this one off the table.
I was going to get
Apart from they want the highest offer, take that off the table. Beyond that, what are the other 3 things that sellers want?
They want a smooth transaction.
True.
They want, they want to know that there's not going to be a lot of issues with inspection requests. So, and that there's not going to be a lot of issues with the financing. So I guess that's 2 things.
2 things.
Yeah, smooth inspections, smooth finance, and smooth financing. So that's where a guy like you comes in and can call the other side and let them know, hey, this buyer client, they're looking really good.
Yeah.
Kind of make them feel like it's going to go smoothly. So
sure. That's where underwriting and approving the buyer up front becomes important. All right, I buy that. I'm right there with you. What's the 3rd thing?
Yep. What else are sellers looking for? I mean, it really a 3rd one. See, I didn't see what you can tell. We never practiced these things.
I'll give you a hint. They don't want to have to do too many open houses and make their beds and keep their place tidy. You buy that one?
Yeah, I would buy that. They don't want a lot of people tromping through the house. That's for
true.
Sure. But that's usually to their detriment, and that usually hurts the listing. So we don't have that problem because we coach the client appropriately that, hey, you have to do this.
You have to do this. Right?
Yeah. But nobody likes a bunch of strangers coming through their house anyway. So
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But you're 100% right on that. Nobody likes that.
Yeah. All right. Let me add one more for those sellers.
Number 4.
Yeah, one more. There's more than 3 always, but we're trying to keep it efficient. I think the number 4th one is inventory as well. Think about it with me, right? When a seller sells their current home, they have to have a place to go. So if they can't find where they're going to go, they're going to be, fighting the uphill battle with the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think scheduling and timing is really more important to the seller a lot of times than it is the buyer.
Yeah.
I feel like buyers, I'll just rent a place for a while I look.
True.
They're in that not most, but a lot of buyers have that option.
Right.
But with the seller, they're like, I got to move to New York, or I got to move to LA or something.
Right.
And I got to be there on this date. So I need to sell my house.
Right.
To be able to move.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just not moving themselves. It's the stuff. Unless you're selling everything.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a house, you got stuff.
You got stuff. Yeah.
You got so much stuff.
Yeah. And in today's world, with today's cost of goods, you can't always sell everything, because if you're going to buy new, well, guess what? You're paying a premium for it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's now shift to the other side, the buyer side. What are the top 3 or 4 things you think buyers want?
Oh, you left me easy one. They want a cheap house. They want the best deal. They want
the best deal. Yeah. I would push back and say they don't want a cheap house. They want the best deal on a good house.
Yeah. They want the best. They want to feel like they got the best deal possible.
That's true. That's the emotional part. Right.
The big thing for our clients that we always see is they want their monthly payment to be manageable. So the principal, the interest, the taxes, and the insurance.
True.
They want that number to be where they can live their current lifestyle or better. So a lot of folks, they're looking at that, and then they're making decisions. So someone might get approved for a $700,000 house, but then they look at their monthly and they're like, I don't want to eat ramen. I want to keep going to the sushi restaurant, every 4 days.
Right.
So they're gonna scale back and say, okay, well, I'm gonna look at something 550 instead of 700.
True.
Because I think lifestyle has become more important, especially for young people, than the big house.
Yeah.
Younger folks, and I'm saying this as an old guy now, 50. People younger than me.
Younger than you. Yeah.
They really do. It's really more lifestyle. Like, we have so many clients now, young couples and young families, and they're like, oh, can we still take our 7 trips a year if we buy this X amount of house?
Sure.
So they're really making decisions based on lifestyle more than I want a giant house and I'll think about the rest later. So it's a little different mindset than the generations that are older.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Well, with that, I would say the next thing then buyers want really is they want more inventory because, right? Think about it.
Yeah.
Because if they could afford that $700,000 property, but they're like, no, we want our cake and eat it too. We want the lifestyle. That might mean they're going to push down on the purchase number. And right then and there, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm fighting against these first-time buyers that are looking for the same thing that I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I would add to that, they just want old people to sell their homes that they've been sitting in for an extra 20 years. Like, I mean, we get so many of these houses now, it's a time capsule from 1974.
Is that right?
And you get somebody who's lived in this house, they're 90. They definitely should be in assisted living, and they just refuse. And they live in one room in this house.
Yeah.
That is a starter home for somebody.
Right.
And they're not moving until they die. It's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, I guess depending on which side you have a relationship with, that's the tough part, right? There's no right nor wrong. It's just the reality of what we see today.
No.
Let's see. What else? What else do you think buyers want? They want shorter commutes. I know that.
Yeah. Because since now work from home is being taken away from everybody.
Yeah, they've bounced back to some have bounced back to the way things were, and now with the cost of goods, the cost of services and supplies being on the uptick, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it costs me so much more to fill up my tank, costs so much more to heat or cool the home. So you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say too, one thing that's interesting is buyers are looking more and more at the neighborhood and the culture of the neighborhood that they're moving into.
Yeah.
And since COVID, people have realized that not knowing your neighbors kind of stinks.
Yeah.
You know, there was a long period of time where people proudly, oh, I don't even know who my neighbors are. And I think now people are getting back to that. You see kind of an uptick in like neighborhood clubs and stuff like that. So a lot of people are asking about that. Oh, what are people in this neighborhood doing? Have you talked to the neighbors? So that's been interesting. So
how do you guys coach buyers when that question comes up? Do you encourage them to drive through the neighborhood during different times of the hours and just kind of casually engage someone in a conversation? Is that what you tell them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And we always recommend, if it's a suburb or a smaller town in Chicagoland, we tell them, like, just go to the village hall.
Yeah.
And you'll see all the different stuff that's there. Go to the local library and you'll see all the different clubs. Most of the time we already have that material in a package for them to look at. Yeah. Give them an idea. They can go online and look at like the Facebook groups. If there's a subreddit for that neighborhood.
Sure.
There's usually like a WhatsApp group you can find for every neighborhood these days. So, you just go into those and start asking. One thing we've started doing too is after we sell a house in a neighborhood, we go, whether we're the buy side or sell side, just as a courtesy service, we do a welcome to the neighborhood card. And we personally go to all the neighbors up and down the block, and we'll have them sign it if they want to and put their contact info.
Oh, nice.
For the new neighbor.
Nice.
Because it's all about connecting people,
That's right.
If they're connected to their neighbors and their neighborhood, it's just going to be better. It improves the value of life for everybody in the neighborhood.
I think it's important in this day and age to feel safe, to know who your neighbors are, because that's part of feeling safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So after COVID, people really have been reconnecting it, I feel like, in person, kind of way. I've always been a big one for events. Like we do tons of events. I've always done events for clients. And before COVID, they were pretty well attended, but not. You'd have a few events where like 5 people would show up.
Yeah.
We do events now, and it's always packed.
Always packed.
People come out. They want to do stuff. So we definitely did not forget COVID times. So that's good.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So, audience members, as Jason and I wrap up today's live stream, what is it that you might want? Do you want the right team to help you with your next chapter, your next step, your journey to either sell or buy your first home or your next home? So if you do, all you need to do right now is simply scan the QR codes that you see here. Together, we can start a conversation with you to help you get to your next chapter. So, Music Posse, play us out. Let's wrap this up for today. Here we go.